Hey, what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining me again. We got a real special episode. We got a two-parter for you today. So about a week ago, I had a couple buddies, Nick Foster, Kempthorn Parker, and Brian Truckley, over at the studio to film a podcast. For the vast majority of the podcast, we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and what happened and what's happening in the country right now. Unfortunately, we also, at the end of the podcast, we did our own little version of Fear Factor, ate a bunch of crickets and sardines and a bunch of nasty stuff, and unfortunately that part was lost. We have the audio, but the video was lost, so that's kind of what provoked the wing episode last time. So, in light of that, I did actually go on Instagram Live and did a live podcast with a good friend of mine, Ricardo Wright, from the podcast Right in the Middle. So, today's two-parter is the Instagram Live. First will be my conversation with Ricardo Wright, and the second part of the conversation will be with me and my other friends, Kempthorn, Brian, and Nick at the studio. So if you did catch the Instagram Live, you could fast forward to the second half. But if not, enjoy this two-parter with a lot of great tidbits, and I think it really gives us some insight onto what's going on and the different people and what other people are experiencing throughout this entire situation. So, without further ado, please enjoy the conversation with Ricardo Wright, and don't forget to hang on to hear the conversation with me and the guys at the studio. Enjoy.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think that's an irrelevant question.
Perfect. I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan.
At some point, the daily drumbeat of depression and terror veers into panic porn. FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I think the question is,
News sources have to rein it in.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
We need the news to calm down and treat us like adults.
Boom. Looking good, baby. All right, you ready to start this thing? I like the Ohio State hat. That means we're ready to go. All right, guys, thanks for joining me again. We are going live. We got a couple people with us right now, and we are going to go. Dude, the theme of our podcast, Ricky, for this episode is just peace, love, and unity. There's a lot going on right now, and I think the only answer is having some discourse. Whether it's uncomfortable or not, you got to get your brothers, the people you love, and have some good old-fashioned conversation. So, Ricky, what is it life like right now for you in Philly? What's it like over there?
Well, I'm an introvert, so I don't really go out. I've been in quarantine since December. So, I keep myself distracted, keep myself away. But the shit going on right now is like shit boiling over, and the good is suffering for the bad. That's what I can sum it up to. You have assholes out here doing the wrong thing, and good people out here that's actually doing the right thing is getting a bad judgment because of their ignorance.
And yeah, I agree, dude. And there's such a small there's such a small amount of people acting like that, and it's taking away from the grander message here, right?
It ignites a fire. That's what they do. It just ignites a fire. Then that one good person that's standing by watching is like, fuck this shit too. You just put that little fuck it in it. That one person that comes around and put that little fuck it in it, it's gonna combust.
You're right. Yeah, but see, now I'm glad you bring that up, because there's some fishy stuff going on, man. So last time we went live for your podcast, we did a conspiracy podcast. And I'm telling you, man, there's some fishy stuff going on, right? Why are random piles of bricks being dropped off at very important buildings? That's pretty fishy. My uncle said there was a woman that he went to high school with who took her family to a peaceful protest downtown, in downtown Cleveland, and after curfew was coming upon them, when everybody was slowly migrating back home, they saw 3 red Greyhound buses drop off people in like Antifa riot gear. And then that evening, she sees the same exact people on the news doing the rioting and the destruction. So you got to be curious. You know, they keep saying, well, they're out-of-staters. Okay. It's very easy to just dismiss it as people came from somewhere else and started destruction. But who are those people, and what was their motivation to come to your town? Something gives me to believe that they just...
Take advantage, bro. It's just take advantage of what's going on. Like,
that's true, too.
What's the narrative? Like, I don't know who is the puppet master behind all this shit, but whoever that motherfucker is he's a little smart. But thank God for more cameras and more, like, people being more aware to the bullshit.
I mean, dude, think about it. Jon Jones, back to what you were saying, cameras out. Somebody caught him going around from little white kids. They're little white kids dressed in Antifa gear, and he's ripping exactly. And they're ripping paint cans out of their hands going, no, that's not what this is. Stop taking away from the message of what we're trying to do. So I totally agree that it's a small minority of people that are totally, misdirecting the message here and taking away the narrative. So I'm curious, Ricky, what is your opinion? So I totally agree. Here's the thing. I haven't met a single human that doesn't see the George Floyd video as absolutely disgusting. I haven't met a single person. Not one. Not a cop, every person unanimously agrees that was disgusting. So my curiosity comes in, why the real enemy here is a prosecutor that took way too long to press charges. The real enemy here is a police chief that obviously harbored an environment where these people thought they were safe acting like this. What are you doing mucking up my Instagram all day, every day, yelling at quote-unquote allies? These are your friends, and we are directing anger at each other instead of the real enemy here.
I had to take myself from the social media.
It's true. It's gotten to that.
Because it was sad, like, we're smart. I ain't the brightest crayon out of the book. But I'm, like, yo, come on now. Like, 1 + 1 = 2. It does not equal 11. Okay? Like, you see a certain pattern keep happening over and over and over, and you don't do anything about it and expect a different result. Like, it's not gonna change it. That's the key to insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Exactly.
So when I see some old people I used to walk the Biracial aisles with, and they cannot just, like, you're allowed to have your own opinion. I don't have your own opinion. I let you be with your own opinion. I'm not going to ever attack no one for their opinion. I may try to talk to you and enlighten you, but if it comes to an argument, I'm done with it. I'll just go smoke and keep myself to myself. Like, that's just ignorant. So when I see people, like, saying, oh, it's all the bad.
What's up, Gayla?
Oh, the peaceful protesters, hell yeah. Andy, make sure you hit that follow on him and his podcast. Podcast on fucking YouTube.
Kayla, thanks for joining the intellectual corner. But yeah, keep going, Ricky. I totally agree. But
shit like, oh, kill all, like, knock all these motherfuckers up. Fuck all this shit. Blue lives matter. Yes, blue lives matter. But that's not what the message is. The message is, we black lives also matter. They're just trying to be included. We're just trying to we're trying to feel included. That's why we're saying it matters.
No, and
the second they say no one else's life matters, we're saying we just want to be included.
Right.
It's just literally that simple, and ignorance comes in. Like,
so I gotta ask you, because you brought that. Okay, so to your point exactly, I think the beauty of this platform is that we get to have these types of conversations. Uncomfortable or not, we get to, like you said, somebody may have an ignorant opinion, but the beauty and the thing that we need to fight to preserve is the ability of two different minds or two different people from two different backgrounds somebody has ignorance. And to liberate yourself from the ignorance, you need to be able to take those ideas and combat them against someone else's. So, I'm curious, Ricky, what is your opinion right now with the Drew Brees situation? You have Drew Brees. Now, you 100% bring up an anecdotal situation where somebody is misinterpreting the Black Lives narrative, and they are... So, my question for you is this. While I totally see everybody's the reaction towards Drew Brees, as much as I totally respect it, that I can understand the feeling of, no, that's not the message. And furthermore, what is a protest, right? Chris D'Elia said it himself. It isn't a protest unless you're doing it when you're not supposed to. So, keeping that in mind, a protest is, I'm supposed to be working, but I'm out front with my picket sign, or whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing. So, I'm doing it when I'm not supposed to anyway. That's what makes it a protest, but keeping that in mind, you need to remember that means that some people are going to not be happy that you're doing it when you're doing it. So, I think, one, there's a war on nationalism right now. If you are for our government or you have an American flag, somehow you hate other people. We're supposed to remember we're all in the same tribe together. So, my curiosity is, do you think it's appropriate for someone like Drew Brees to have to be cut at the knees and bow to their king, the internet? I think I may have lost you, Ricky. But hopefully Ricky comes back, because I'd really like to get his ideas on this. And I agree. So, Lady Money, I completely agree that it's to remind us that all of our lives matter. And literally, Black Lives Matter is just saying we matter too. We matter, and don't forget that. My curious thing is the right way to combat this problem cutting people's lives off or demonizing them? Because literally 3 months ago, Drew Brees was praised for donating $1 million to COVID relief. And you could find a clip of a woman crying about how great of a man he saved our community. And now 3 months later, his belief that my grandfather died for this. Here we go. Let's go, Ricky. Ooh, off the table.
I was hearing. So I heard the Drew Brees question. It's disappointing that a man of that stature, from when Trump came out and called all the NFL players SOB, and they all came united, and then for him to not see the video last week, 13 days now, and then see the protests started. It didn't start out of the blue, out of nowhere, over the national flag or anything like that. It started after the video came out.
See you, Brian.
It didn't have nothing to do with the flag. We're all in this together. So we should have that little foresight to see that, other people don't have certain opportunities or marginalized against. It's just that simple.
No, dude, I completely agree. You hit the nail on the head. The only unfortunate thing is, I don't think you change the minds or liberate people from their ignorance by because here's the thing, you're only going to harbor more hate. Somebody loses their career, somebody loses, we'll get to another, I have another example here, but I don't think you get to the true answer when we just turn people off, right? If I started saying some really ignorant stuff to you right now.
Bro, that's how you get more followers. Once you resent the person over there.
What's up, Kim?
Over here, gonna be like, why the fuck they're not talking? I'm going to go over here and see what's up. That's how, include them. Let's see the ignorance. Include them.
And highlight their ignorance. Put it on a pedestal. Don't hide it. Don't snuff it under a rug. Put it on a bench and shout it from the rooftops. Here's the thing. Boom. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. And how about this one? There's a gentleman, and gosh darn it, I wish I knew his name. I will find it, and it'll be in the description of the YouTube video. But it's an amazing Joe Rogan podcast where this African-American gentleman who did jazz back in the 40s literally would convert KKK members. And he has a collection of the Grand Wizard and Grand Dragon and all these hoods, because all he would do, the first person he ever switched over. He sat down, had a drink with him. The guy looks at him and he goes, I've never had a drink with a black person before. And he laughed.
Daryl Davis.
Yes.
Take that episode of Joe Rogan out, man.
You have to, links in the bio. You will definitely want to watch this one. And it's great. And he talks about the first time. And the guy looks at me and goes, I've never sat with a black person before. And he thought he was kidding. He's like, yeah. And he's like, no, for real, I haven't. And that forever then, they'd go and get a drink. He'd realize that's how you convert people from their ignorance, right?
Sit down, have a conversation.
Boom.
Because I did something you don't do. Like me because I told you to go fuck off. Like me because of those certain reasons. Don't like me because of the pigment of my skin. Don't like me because I came from Jamaica. Don't like me because I came from the Middle East or from China. Don't like me because of none of those reasons. Like me because of our character. As Martin Luther. Like me. Don't dislike me because of my character.
Plus, I think if we shatter the echo chambers we're all isolating ourselves in, and we expose ourselves to more and more people, you realize how immutable these characteristics really are. Back in the day, 5,000 years ago, humans were separated by tribes, and gosh darn it, because of the sun, the most immutable characteristic that separated us was this thing called melatonin in our skin. It literally doesn't exist. It doesn't have any characteristic in a people's character. And the more you meet people, you go, wow, that white person really sucked. And wow, that white person was not too bad. And then you go, wow, that black person was mean. Wow, that black person was extremely beautiful. You gotta, and then you realize, oh, none of these characteristics mean anything. It's exposure, and I think we need to honestly approach, as crazy as it sounds, approach this stuff with an open heart. The more you let people damn you before you damn them, you put karma out in the world, because again, just like, somebody that was refused to go into a restaurant because of their skin color, well, maybe that person that refused them from their restaurant grows older and they regret it. They feel bad for what they did. But it doesn't matter, because what they did to that 13-year-old kid lives with them. They move on, they have kids, and they live in a world where they were refused from a restaurant. And in the same way, where a white person gets knocked out because, well, you're the oppressor. Well, guess what? That person may grow up to regret doing it, but now you've harbored hate. You really got to approach this stuff with love. And I don't think it's too late. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It's never too late. It is never too late.
Protesting always, click the dial. But, move the dial just a little further. But, since I've been here since so far, I'm tired of just seeing the dial just move a little bit further. That shit just need a leap. The way technology and the world is moving, where we're so accessible and we have so much information in our hands from our phone, you should not have a certain ignorance. You should not be one-sided. The information is out there.
But Ricky, something that was brought to my attention this past weekend that I didn't even realize, this should be mind-boggling. In the 60s, it was still illegal in this country to have a biracial marriage. Sorry. How crazy is that? That's pretty wild if you ask me. So in light of that, it's only been a short period of time and we've come a real long way, right? So I'm saying, look at this. While we may not be happy where we're at right now, and we may feel that it isn't moving fast enough, what we might have to show is look at gay marriage, right? My dad lived his whole life thinking that would never happen. It isn't a thing. We can't respect it. It isn't something that'll ever really happen. And then that, just when the attitudes changed and the new generation is in Congress, when we take over the power, the attitudes change. I am sitting here, a bunch of people from law school have been popping in and out. Well, guess what? Guess who grows up to be those people with those new attitudes? Here's another one. I sit down with my favorite professor. And I'm going to be honest with you, I really had a hard time these past 3 years in that I feel like academia has been completely demolished. Free thought and the ability to come in with ignorance to be liberated from it is completely shunned. It is one tone, one attitude, and if you don't like it, we shut you down. So I go to him and I ask him, hey, professor, what have you noticed since you've been teaching here since you were 25? What have you noticed in the classroom in attitudes change? Or like, what is the biggest change you've noticed? And I kind of kept it broad to see what he would make of it and where he would take it. And the one thing he said, and he taught constitutional law, is he goes, for the longest time, we would have debate. And again, I don't mean to draw any comparison to gay because it's totally different. But he goes, the biggest difference is we used to have a debate about gay marriage. Should people, gays, acceptability. And it would be an open, now it's just uniform. Everybody's like pro-gay. And it's not a bad thing, or he's just like, this is beautiful. Look at how everybody unanimously agrees. What's up, Andre? And so you've got people that the attitudes are changing. And so while it doesn't look like that dial's moving a lot, to remember that a biracial marriage was illegal in the 60s, and we are totally, I don't know, Brian, you're going to be, that text, Brian, is now going to be in the podcast, so you're beautiful. Dude, all I'm saying is it's moving, and the power is with us. The power is totally with us, and it's going to change with us.
Brian is the guy that ate all them wings.
Yes, he is!
See you, my guy. Fuck the milk.
Yo, Ricky, since you brought that up, I puked the next morning. We didn't even drink. It was just straight from the wings. It was miserable. It was miserable. So, but don't worry. When we get you on, we're not going to make you eat anything spicy. I promise. But, so here's what stinks, Ricky, is for this podcast, I'm doing like a double. So we're going to do this podcast, and then the other half is going to be a podcast we filmed. Dude, we ate crickets, habanero suckers, Tabasco jelly beans, and then sardines, man. It was disgusting. Brian drank the sardine juice.
Nah, I ain't gonna fuck with that.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna fuck with no crickets either. You know what? I'll try. Now this is gonna be interesting, because I'm gonna freak the fuck out. This is gonna be real interesting. I'll try. Hey.
Dude, I'll test you.
I'm gonna do it.
Hey, just remember, Brian didn't know milk.
But Brian's a different breed.
Yeah, dude, it was creepy.
With no milk or water, like I'll be dead.
The worst part is we were just going to eat one wing of each of the spiciest from each restaurant, and then he kept wolfing them down, so I had to eat more. It was miserable. Now I know blazing wings are a total pussy. They are not spicy. Go to Quaker Steak. If you want to lose your mouth... So back to reality. Ricky, you're in Philly, and here's the thing, right? I want to send this question off to you in this tone. So we were talking about the hyperbolic chamber that is Instagram, the internet, these social medias. And what's funny is it seems like everybody's so angry and mad, and when you finally unplug and you go outside, everybody, dude, I've been working at one of our buildings, like landscaping. All these people go out of their way to just show their beautiful character. Smile. Hi, how are you? From all different backgrounds. And I'm starting to see that when you unplug, you get reminded of the real beauty that is humanity and what we really have.
People live in them. They don't really bring it. They don't really bring that attitude. They would have it because of the placebo thing going on. Everybody being happy, and they want to be happy to get disconnected. Let's all be together right now. Kumbaya. But once fucking winter hits this motherfucker, everybody's listening together.
That's true.
Everybody's listening. Once sports start back again, everybody start getting distracted, and all that shit is just,
That's a really great point.
It's sad. That's why I say protests, like, it needs to be more than freaking protests. Like, cops, they've been saying this for years. There needs to be another board that has not affiliated, that's what they call it, supervision board for police officers.
That's true, Lady Money.
Not even connected to the force, nothing. You can have 5 people on there. You can have 2 cops. You can have 2 regular citizens, and you can have 1 lawyer that's not a prosecutor, a fucking defendant. Let them see every shooting should be looked upon. No matter what the shooting is, if they're finding it should be looked upon, it should be released. More transparency. Everybody needs to be accountable. You know how they say everyone needs speedy justice? Well, the victims need speedy justice. Not next year, these 4 cops need to be on trial. This shit needs to start in the next month. Put them on trial when the shit is hot. Don't wait till this shit dies off and all that shit. You feel me?
Dude, 100%. Literally, a prosecutor is a completely unchecked king. They can make let's say I'm the prosecutor and my sister murders somebody. I could literally choose not to press charges because it's my opinion and I'm the prosecutor, and then my sister gets away with murder. That's how the world works. If any of you have seen the Jeffrey Epstein documentary, it should drive you up a wall that they had this dude dead to rights, and then the prosecutor just said, yeah, no, we made a deal with him. He gets full immunity. No one's ever gotten that before in their life. And all co-conspirators too. How much money did that cost? I agree with you, Ricky, and I think part of the beginning to this answer is, listen, I went to law school and it was extremely hard and I was holding on by my fingertips, and if I would have failed, I could have easily have been a cop, right? That could have been a fallback. It's easy to fucking do. So my problem here is, why is it that it is a higher standard to defend you from the law, but an extremely lower standard to be the law? That's a problem, right? I think to be this type of human, you got to have the highest standard possible. And so for me, the biggest struggle is we don't have a high enough standard. You may have passed the test and the physical test when you were 25, but now when you're 45 with your giant donut belly, you got to prove to me you still got it, because you know you can't outrun the perpetrator, so you shoot him. So we got to make your fat ass run. I'm sorry, dude. We need to have way much. Why do the SEALs have the SEALs have great pride in what they do, and they are the pinnacle of safety and responsibility because they are literally the highest standard we can make. Why are those not cops? We are taking humans with PTSD and humans with fragile egos as it is and offering them a position of the utmost power. So it's definitely a structural issue, and I just want to remind people that we are all victims to this. The saddest part is the biggest victim is an African American individual, but we are all facing an unchecked oppressor, and so we need to remember, just like the French Revolution, right? They had people of different classes, and the king was able to keep them oppressed because they all hated each other based on their opinions. But if we can all unite, like the French did, acknowledging we have different opinions, that's how real change happens. The unity.
That's unity, yes, unity is all. But you re-sign comment real quick. But sign, that's like, to an extent, like, you be so, just in the environment. You still need people from other communities, like different foresights and stuff like that. That makes sense? Like,
I agree.
That makes a lot of sense. It's better you have a sergeant that grew up in your community instead of a sergeant that knows nothing to do with your community.
I completely agree.
Also, you want a different. It's not good to just be one-sided. Just like with this same thing we're talking about, it's not good to just have one group of people in one thing, like one-sided. If that makes somewhat sense, which is why Black Lives Matter.
Oop. Ricky, I think I may have lost you. There we go. We're back.
What? My bad. Even if you're
still be able to treat people like people. Here's the thing, Andre. The craziest part about this situation is there is not one person that doesn't agree the law has been broken. So who failed us? I remind us, the prosecutor failed us, failed his constituents. The fact that this individual has such unchecked power is despicable, and then he failed his constituents. He failed all of us. So it starts with him. It starts with the officer who straight up committed murder and broke the law. And it starts with a police chief. Again, this guy murdered 3 white kids by crashing a car. He's killed another African American, and he's killed 1 other person. He's killed like 5 people on his rap sheet. Why does this guy still have a job?
That's true.
So there's so many elements that are the problem. To think it's your Instagram followers and your friends is not right. Because we're on your side. We're all in this together. We agree with you. I totally agree with Lady Money right now. That yes, Black Lives Matter the most right now. I 100% agree. And for that to really have credence, you got to let us support you. You got to let other people be on your team and support you. Acknowledge we're in this together. We're all the human race.
Not us. Other people got to be willing.
That's it. And how do you get that willingness?
Got to be willing to sacrifice their face or their name to be on the team, because they might be from a certain area and look down upon because they have a black friend that comes and have whiskey night with them every week. You see what I'm saying? So
I agree.
That neighbor has to be willing to be like, he has nothing to do with that motherfucker anyway. Why are you watching this? But still, that neighbor has to be willing to just be like, okay, let me go talk to my neighbor and be like, can I come over for whiskey night this week? And be willing, just be open-minded.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. So, and so this is the thing. And the beauty of these types of conversations, Ricky, is when you get to really sit down and talk to people who you in your head have drawn a line and made the other. When you finally sit down and have all these conversations, Andre being one of my best friends, we would do this all the time. You learn at the end of the day, everybody pretty much agrees, right? We all agree that was murder. We all agree that Black lives deserve attention right now and truly are crying for help, and they deserve and are owed help. All of this comes out when you sit down and talk to people that you thought was the other, that was not on your team, and you recognize we all, not all, I'm not saying every human, but I'm saying when you approach the average person with an open heart, you learn that they value the same virtues you do at the end of the day. Family, humanity, community, respect, all of it. Everybody just wants to feel safe and be comfortable. And we should be able to provide that for everybody. Not some people, everybody.
Everyone. The less loser you have in anything, in sports, in your country, in anything, the greater your team is going to be, the greater your nation is going to be, the less minority you have in your country, the less people in poverty you have in your country, the more shit's going to be open, and more people going to want to school, have that drive to do better for themselves, for their kids, you know. So we just need better. We just need to be an all-star team, and we need better.
I agree.
We need everybody to step up, start training like Kobe, and let's get it.
100, or even, could you imagine if the whole world took their life and their goals as serious as someone like Michael Jordan did? Like, I don't think there's any human under the sun yet that has ever had that much commitment and drive. If you watch The Last Dance, dude, there is no work ethic like that.
That's very true. So if we just take a little pinch.
Oh, no.
System, put a little pinch of that little drive into the communities, into the people, into resources to make better. Like, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot more Michael Jordans, a lot more Peyton Mannings, Brady's, all over. Look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was poor, bro, from Ohio. You see what I'm saying? Nobody look at that. No one looks at that. It's not, and he hard work for it. I ain't saying he had to face what certain people face, or he didn't have to. Into his community. LeBron put back into their community so they can be less he wants to go back to his city next week and be like, damn, that's a new ownership. I remember when that kid was coming from school, That's boom, that's a nice new small business popping. Just give people the opportunity that you give everyone else.
And to take that point, to answer Lady Money's question, how do you approach those who showed you fear? The unfortunate thing is, when you cultivate that fear even further in their head, you are never going to defeat this division, right? So Ricky and I talked on earlier, if you are approached by somebody of a different race and they have that fear, they show you fear or aggression, well, if in any way, if you're breaking their store or those are, I don't like the comparison that we're putting a human life over property, because there's been innocent civilians, hundreds, that are just getting knocked out cold. We've seen dead people in the streets. We were not just talking about looting Gucci and knocking down Best Buy anymore. There are real people getting hurt. And that person goes to the hospital and has a piece of hate in their heart that you will never take from them. And that will be passed on to their next generation. So when you grow older and you go, well, I regretted knocking that person out in the middle of the street, remember, when you sit back and you regret it and you feel bad that your grandchild is facing some sort of obstacle that was created, remember, you put that in the universe. That same person has grandchildren that are going to remember that they saw their grandparent on a life machine because they got knocked out cold in the middle of 4th Avenue.
Because if me and my family worked hard as fuck, my dad worked hard, put his family in a situation, and we have a small business, and we're part of the protest, and we're out there protesting, and then that's what we said earlier, the good suffer for the bad. These ignorant mother effers, what did my business do to deserve any, why are you, there's no cookies in here, why are you smashing the bakery? There's nothing in here, why are you doing those little, what did Target do to you? You see what I'm saying?
No, 100%. But I want to point out Lady Money's comment is beautiful. That is the beautiful point. And I just want to elaborate that the line shouldn't be skin color. It should literally be that comment. That comment right there. Because guess what? I approach all different races with the same open heart and kindness. And like Lady Money said, the second you damn me or you take that for granted, I'm also going to be equally upset. So I totally agree, Lady Money. When people wrong you, we're not Jesus here, right? When they're wrong, they are bad people. I'm saying don't make good people the enemy here, because we need all the good people we can get on our side. So hold on, Ricky, I want to get your comments on something you posted. It was a post that I really loved.
Of their past experience, I'm not gonna do anything to incite their fear of me because of someone of my skin color did something to them, but I'm just gonna be me.
Boom.
You either accept me for who I am, or keep that same stigma and live in that time, and don't see because there's good and bad people in all skin colors and all races. So if you want to have that one and see that one person did something fucked up to you and judge the whole race off of that, that's on you. I just only can be me and be kind to you. And if you can't accept that, that's that.
Right. And exactly. And the sad part is, yes, I totally agree that we're all running a race and people start at different points, right? At different starting marks. And that's really unfortunate. But when we paint everybody with a blanket brush, remember, 35% of people, white people, own slaves. What about immigrants like my parents who had to hide from Nazis and then never owned a slave ever and is coming here for persecution? So we're all from different corners. And I want to get your comment on this, Ricky, because you posted this and I thought it was a beautiful point, right? For a small amount of perspective, at this moment, imagine you are an American born in the 1900s. When you are 14, World War I starts and ends on your 18th birthday, with 22 million people killed. Later in the year, the Spanish flu epidemic hits the planet and runs until you're 20. 50 million people die from those 2 years. Yes, 50 million. When you're 29, the Great Depression begins. Unemployment hits 25%. The global GDP drops to 27%. That runs until you're 33. The country nearly collapses along with the world economy. When you're 39, World War II starts. You aren't even over the hill yet. When you're 41, the United States is fully pulled into World War II. Between your 39th and 45th birthday, 75 million people perish in the war, and the Holocaust kills 6 million. At 52, the Korean War starts, and 5 million perish. At 64, the Vietnam War begins, and it doesn't end for many years. 4 million people die in that conflict. Approaching your 62nd birthday, you have the Cuban Missile Crisis, a tipping point in the Cold War. Life on our planet, as we know it, could well have ended. Great leaders prevented that from happening. As you turn 75, the Vietnam War finally ends. Think of everyone on the planet born in 1900. How did you survive all that? A kid in 1985 didn't think their 85-year-old grandparent understood how hard school was. Yet, those grandparents and now great-grandparents survived through everything listed above. Perspective is an amazing art. Let's try and keep things in perspective. Let's be smart. Help each other out, and we will get through all of this. In the history of the world, there has never been a storm that has lasted. This too shall pass. So, Ricky, I want to get your thoughts, because I thought that was beautiful, and it really paints perspective.
I read that the other day, and it's sad, because shit keeps repeating itself. If you really look at it, it's sad. Shit keep repeating. The unnecessary wars, and regarding, like, we haven't had a Great Depression like we had, but, like, the unnecessary wars keep happening. Because from the Vietnam War, shit kind of slew down until we went to the Middle East, and another conflict started over so many years. But to think about that, like, I was reading that, I was like, yo, to be born from the First World War, from 1916, 1918, around
right
there, and survived all that, the Great Depression, probably went to World War II as well, and then come back, and then you're starting.
Oh, we lost you there.
Like, world, like, not even just your country, but the world, like, that is sad. It's just fucking sad. Us as human, like, why can't we just learn from the past and just try to do better? Get the greed out of it. Like, and that's what I feel is driving stuff a lot. It's the greed, the money, big corp. Like, that's
Brian nailed that.
sad.
No, I 100% agree. And so Andre raised a great point. He brings up the point about how, what about the problem of people not being heard? And I really think the problem here is the media, folks. Like, it is a sad, unfortunate, but that's why, like, Ricky and I started this off with. It starts with a great conversation. This will be the future of the medium, where I get to sit with somebody and have an uncensored, true discourse where I get to flush out bad ideas and find the good ones. And so this will be the future. It's all propaganda. It's not called programming by accident. So you are turning on the box and waiting to be told what to think. And so frustration is only appropriate when you're seeing our voices aren't being heard. But it goes back to my point with Ricky. I'm sitting there hearing the news talk about bricks and buildings burning and people dying but then you walk outside and everybody is going out of their way to say, hi, I love you, I'm here. Yeah, no worries, man. This should have I mean, guys, it's been I totally agree. Yes, I agree. Lady Money, it is our responsibility. We always notice that. You look back at your parents and your grandparents and you go, oh, they didn't have a clue. They didn't have a clue. And it comes with us making those changes. So I completely agree. So Ricky, I got to ask though. So could you give us any advice in keeping perspective, right? So, like, we read that passage and how, well, first I want to acknowledge your point on how you said it's sad. It looks like we're stuck in a cycle and we can't break it. I want to point out, though, look how much has changed. War is not the answer. But those wars did happen. They're history. We can't change it. But what we do know is that we have come an extremely far way, right? We get the luxury of creating wars in our own cities because we will never face a war here. We always take the fight to them. So we are so comfortable, and none of us, like Israel or all these other strong national countries where the citizens have to be a part of the military for a period of time, we get to have the beauty and the luxury of forgetting the sacrifice people have made for us to throw bricks at Best Buys. You get to run rampant and feel safe because we have come so far. So far. And while those were unnecessary deaths in wars that could have probably have been prevented or should have because money drove all of them, we do have to acknowledge we have come a really far way.
Yes. And it's due to technology as well. It's due to technology. Technology has a huge ass part to do with it. And that's what's going to keep driving us is technology. I feel like technology is going to be somewhat. It's not going to fully until AI takes over this motherfucker. It's somewhat like right now. It should be where technology shouldn't be making us come together because we can go on our own and go look for the information and see what people are saying. See the other opinion. Don't go to if you listen to the news, the typical media. Don't listen to one station. Listen to both sides. Listen to both stations. Come to your own fucking conclusion. You have your own mind. Come to your own conclusion. Don't let no one think for you. Listen to CNN. Listen to Fox. Listen to MSNBC. Listen to them and come to your own conclusion. And then go do your own. Do that little exercise.
I mean, you're not though. But no, I 100% agree with your point. I mean, I do think we need to kind of push back on the narrative that like. It is so bad right now, it's as bad as it was centuries ago. That just isn't the case. And I'm sorry, Lady Money, when you're sitting here, I am here with an open heart, wanting to be liberated from my ignorance, right? That is so much farther than my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, and I'm sorry, but I went to a law school where I was the minority, right? Like a white man, we were the far and few between, and because free thought was snuffed out, nobody wanted to hear from us to begin with. So we have come very far. I'm not sitting here and pretending like we don't have anywhere else to go. We still have a far way to go, but I don't think it's appropriate to be pretending like it is anywhere near as bad as it was even in the 50s. And I gotta remind you guys, it was illegal for an interracial marriage in the 60s. That's despicable and not far long ago.
And not just in the world came a long way.
Yes. And I want to touch on your point. The internet is what's going to save us, dude. It got away from them. They created it to keep their thumb on us so they could watch us and have all our information. But then they don't. Now we're the interconnectivity and the globalization is definitely what's going to liberate us. I totally agree. Ninad, I love that Ninad's in this. That was a great question. Ninad asked, do you think the introduction of the welfare system in the 60s pushed black men out of their communities and into homes? That's a great point. I totally get the question. It didn't help anybody. But I truly believe that the Democrats and the welfare system created a lot of this to keep people suppressed so they never lose their vote. A blue welfare citizen is always voting blue. So they've created a system that keeps people there. We totally need to reform the welfare system. Ninad, I think you raised a great point. That welfare system in place in the 60s was not put in place to help anybody, and it was only to further oppress, to preserve their votes. So I appreciate that question because that was a great question. Boom. I totally agree. And it's been a cycle. But we're waking up to this. And I think it gets back to Ricky's point where the internet it's escaped them. They never saw this coming, where we can have a record of every video ever. I mean, guys, when we find out George Floyd and this cop knew each other, when we back to the kind of conspiracy stuff, like not to take away from how horrific that video was. They worked together. Everybody in the neighborhood of that cop thought he was an accountant and never saw him in a police uniform. He would tell everybody that he wasn't a cop. So there's some really fishy stuff going on, and the timeliness, it's all but we have a record of it. And so there's a lot of parallels to like the Las Vegas shooter, the biggest mass shooting in American history. Nobody talks about, we've all forgotten, it's totally unacknowledged, and it's because we were all starting to wake up. Whoa. People on the ground have videos from shots from different areas, all this other stuff. Some of this stuff is manufactured to keep us divided. It's really funny. There's videos of a black nurse just knocking out an old white man. Never see it on the news, but we see a white woman with her dog. Everybody agrees that sees that video. That's disgusting. I don't care what skin color you are, your dog better be on a leash because I'm afraid of big dogs. So I'm with the dude's bird watching. He's doing nothing wrong. Again, everybody unanimously agrees about the horrificness of this video. But why are we cherry picking particular stories and suppressing others? Maybe it's to create a narrative that keeps us divided and hating each other. What will happen is all the good people, no matter what the color, will come together and take over and make that's exactly it. And Lady Money, it's the good people need to stand their ground. It's an exercise, baby. Anger will take over. Upset, hurt. Andre, I feel you. Also, at the same time when everybody was suffering, you also had a lobster dinner at home. So there is a lot of beautiful things going on, and we need to acknowledge how far we've come. Yes, how much farther we have to go, but recognize the people around you on your team that support you, that love you, and want to fight for you. And don't make them into enemies, because you need more friends than enemies to win this thing. And you can't flip people like that.
Making them an enemy, they can turn themselves into enemies. If they can go listen to even just something, it's not, people just gotta want better for themselves and for their neighbors and for their nation. Just want better for yourself, your nation.
I agree, Andre. I was just making a point.
Another riot and shit like that. You don't want to see your kid have to go through curfew because of people running mucket across the street and shit.
No, I 100% agree. And Andre, I wasn't all I'm saying is, again, we need to acknowledge where we're at, right? And we've come a long way in an extremely short period, and that's the only way we get even farther. We can't be making out each other to be enemies. And again, I love you, and I always will, and I didn't mean for anything like that to come off as like an attack or anything, because again, all I was trying to say is we all have a long way to go, but we need each other. And we also need to recognize how far we've come. We are not suffering the same suffer we had centuries ago, like a point that was brought up in the comments. Assimilation is a big cause of this. Every American has rooted culture. When you start labeling color, it takes the history away from the person. We taught that it's all the tribalism. We got to remember it's an immutable characteristic that means literally nothing. Literally nothing. Ninad, when do I get you on this podcast, bro? Check out this studio. We got the whole studio here. Where are you at, man? I'm waiting for you to come on this thing. Ricky's gonna be on in a couple weeks.
Oh damn, bro! You disappeared and just came back. I didn't see you when you left. You just came back. I didn't see you when you left, but I saw you coming back. But we're not just the same. We are just not the same.
You're right. I mean, again, the unfortunate thing is these uncomfortable conversations need to be had.
That's very true. It's on both sides.
Yeah, Andre definitely does. And Andre, you've opened my eyes to a lot. So Andre says, I'm a product of how far we have come, so I'm very aware of it, but I've also had a unique perspective to see race relations on both sides. Unfortunately, my black relatives are inherently at risk. He's 100% right, and Andre opened my eyes to something else that I didn't even know light-skinned people have to suffer with. Andre is torn to where he isn't a white person, but then he's also reminded often a lot by his close friends. Like, I see it in firsthand. Like, no, but you're not black. And it's like, guys, he's suffering the same thing as you. Like, those lines need to be disintegrated. And I agree, Andre, you've opened my eyes to that struggle that I didn't even really see or know. It's a big struggle and that goes to show that, Andre, even your struggle is different than Ricky's struggle, different than Lady Money's, and different than Brian's. And while I agree, we're all running a race and people are at different starting points, we do got to acknowledge we're running the same race. And we can run this together. My brother has white skin, and I'm darker than him. We have the same parents, but we look different, and he always has been treated differently. Dude, that's heartbreaking. And again, that was honestly, Andre, you know this. I love you to death, and you'll forever be one of my best friends, and it's because those experiences that I had with you will carry on with me. Like, I will take that'll never leave me. That I saw Andre suffering something different than his own brother, than his own friends that are white and his own friends that are black. He suffered his own unique suffering, and we all do. And I think that's kind of the beauty of where we're at, man. We need to start acknowledging that so we can all come together and run this together. But hey, Ricky, we are coming up on the 1 hour mark, so it is coming time to wrap this bad boy up. I'm going to be looking forward to having you in this actual building. We got a TV and a chill area. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to be looking forward to it. To everybody that enjoyed this conversation, I want to do this live more often because I really like being able to bring in people's comments and thoughts. It brings it great. So, Ricky, we'll have to do this again. A lot of fun. But, guys, remember, this is the answer. We need to have open conversation with people that can love each other to get somewhere.
Very true, bro. That is very true. But they're doing a very calling it war and say we need to go here because of radicalization and this and that. So you're damn right about that, Nanad. Damn right.
Oh, he's always right. Nanad, again, man, when am I going to get you on this thing? Answer me. I'm going to get you in here. But yeah, dude, guys, like, share, subscribe, follow Ricky right in the middle. Great podcast. He's got another, what was it, coming out today? Don't you have a podcast coming out today?
Yes, today.
Podcast coming out today. Hey, don't miss our last podcast where we burned our mouths off eating chicken wings on YouTube, the Rethink Tank podcast. And, yes, dude, Nanad, let's do this, man. I'm going to love it. So, hey, Nanad, I'm at the shopping center in Broadview by your old house, so come on through here. I'd love to have you on.
Wait for a wait.
Could you do it?
You got it.
Yo, I could have Ryan. I could have Brian up here and we'll do it. Brian, come up here for the 16th if you can. We'll do a wing for wing challenge. That would be it. Brian's pretty tough with this, man. Yo, Nanad, if you want. All right, we got him. All right, guys. So again, Facebook, like us on Facebook, all the duty. Follow right in the middle. This podcast will have, in addition to it, an additional 40 minutes with my boy Kempthorn Parker, Brian Foster, Nick Foster, and Kempthorn. Yeah, so all of us, join us, and we'll catch you next time. Ricky, love you, man, and I love doing this with you. I look forward to doing this again. Guys, catch you next time. Peace. Bless up.
News sources have to rein it in.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
We need the news to calm down and treat us like adults.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and thanks for joining me again. We have moved into a legitimate studio. We are back in Cleveland, Ohio. We are out of hell. Pennsylvania will never be seen again, and I have no intention of looking back. But we are back in Cleveland and ready in the motherland, ready to have some fun. But first, before we move on to doing, we have a little bit of a fear factor situation set up for us, and it may be quite terrible. But before we get to all the fun, we have some real business to talk about. It is the most pertinent situation in America right now. I'm so excited and eager to get into this that I haven't even introduced the situation. So with me right now in Cleveland, back at home, in the new studio, I have a lot of friends with me, as you can tell. We've moved in, settled in, got a whole crew. My brother, Nick Foster, my brother, Brian Truckley, and my big fat brother, who's way too old, Kempthorn Parker.
One day.
He's old as shit. Now, nonetheless, with the crew, we are going to first discuss a very pertinent situation in America, and it is with George Floyd. Everybody has seen the video, and as you can see right now, Minneapolis is in flames. In light of all of that, we can't help but discuss the situation we're in. Okay, guys, I think we can acknowledge that there's a problem in America. I think everybody has seen it, and I don't want to harp things that have already been harped. One thing that is emphasized to the nth degree is sharing something on your story is not action. And I've seen it from plenty of my black friends and plenty of my social justice warrior friends that posting something isn't anything. Whether it's lecturing your white friends or actually a text. Yeah, I learned that a lot of the people that are saying text this number to sign a petition didn't even text it. They shared it, and that was enough. It was like, no, that's not enough. None of you are taking real action. So, nonetheless, what is the real action? The real action is grabbing your four friends, sitting in front of the camera, and trying to have a real discourse on the situation. Yeah. So first, I would like, before I get into the situation and how I have, the way my perspective kind of looks at it, I want to hear from you guys. So we have a situation, we've all seen the video, it's way too long, and it's way too disgusting. It's clearly a video of murder. Right. The real question is, what do you guys think? I want to profess to you guys a couple of questions that you can address. What is your opinion of it?
Yeah.
And what do you think we should do about it?
Well, I mean, what my opinion of it, I was just talking to you about this the other night, is even looking at it, taking all subjectivity out of it, right? White, black, cop versus a black man, objectively. A man against another man. This man excruciatingly, murdered another man against his will. He was completely defenseless. And I don't know if you saw, the reason why he was being arrested was because he forged a $20 bill.
That's insane. And that is not a death sentence.
Right.
That's the key.
And I can't see how we can keep going on with these honest attacks, murders, and there not be extreme reprehension.
I agree. So what do you think, again, so that's your opinion. What do you say we do about it?
I think every option should be on the table, and how you take that is how you take it, but I am not leaving anything off the table with how this should pan out, because this is absolutely cruel. It should never happen to anybody, no matter who you are, where you are, how you've come up. Regardless of that, this should never happen to anybody.
I completely agree. Nick, what's your opinion? What do you think we should do about it?
My opinion, honestly, is that, like Brian said, at the base root of it all, it's human on human, and it's one person killing another. It's unacceptable in every way, shape, and form. But then you add in race and all this other drama that came along with it, that he forged a dollar bill. It's like, did that really justify that you killed a man?
Not at all.
And we've all seen the video, unless you guys haven't, of him when they said he resisted arrest.
No.
He did not.
I was going to bring that up.
He just was taking it
on his neck. No. Nick's talking about a video even before. So there's a video. Somebody has from their gas station a video of him getting arrested and being brought to the cruiser, and literally no resistance. Hands behind his back, just calmly walking. Now, here's the thing, though. We don't have a video of from that point to the cruiser.
Right.
But again, no matter what resistance he brings up, that is not a death sentence.
Here's my point, too. I've seen that George Floyd had been incarcerated before. So he knows the procedure, and he knows that resisting is, no matter what race, no matter what ethnicity, no matter who you are in the world, if you resist a cop who's upholding the law for what we at least believe they are, then they're going to do what's right and take them down if they're resisting. But if he didn't resist, then there's no reason that it should even happen.
I watched this video. It was another police officer just going off on the procedures that they have to go through.
Right.
Especially when they say, "Hey, I can't breathe," or "Hey, you're hurting me." They have to immediately seek aid for that person. They have to stop hurting that individual. That I don't know if you recall.
Things like, hey, are you okay?
Yeah, if you've seen that video, that cop. It's like he has
but
earphones
for 15 minutes,
and he's got his hands in his
I
pocket.
can't breathe.
That's what
it's nothing.
When you look at the picture in the video, his hands are in his pocket, which means you got to think that if you're putting pressure on your thigh and it's on someone or something, that you're adding extra force, extra weight. He put everything he had into it, and you saw he did not have an upright posture. He was leaned over. You know he was putting his force behind that.
It was disgusting.
What led to the fact that his knee is basically on his neck? That's what kind of resisting or what kind of thing led to those actions, and that's almost like that's the direct reason for him putting it on there was to intentionally hurt the individual.
So they teach you how to properly restrain somebody in a way that you're not going to injure.
And the standard for a cop is higher. You're not
exactly.
If somebody shoots at you, it's not equal force.
Right.
The police officer is supposed to always use lesser force.
Yeah.
Kemp, so we haven't asked you yet. What is your opinion, and how do we approach this?
I mean, very very similar to Nick and Truckley and you as well. Like it feels such an intentional act against someone that had for there was no reason or rhyme behind it other than he wanted to intentionally hurt him. And it was such a mistake or such a horrible thing that's why these riots are now going on. And you have to look at it like, why is there a reason for all these things now? Like, this is the real reason because it's all this build up. And I think
here's the
finally
thing.
all finally coming to one.
I agree, but there's two main topics here. Two main topics. First topic is the situation itself. The second topic is the reaction to the situation. Mm-hmm. Before we move on to the reaction, what I do want to address is there's so many elements to this situation, right? This officer has a background of he killed 3 kids.
That's what I wanted to
there were 3 kids our age that were it was a traffic violation, and he in his cruiser rammed into them, killed 3 of them. Because they weren't pulling over. I don't know the details. It was some situation like that. Right. Regardless, you killed 3 kids already.
Yeah, you have to look.
He has a record of this. There's already the sick side to him. And I've said it to these guys too much, but it should stand out to people when I go, if I fail law school, I'll go be a cop. The fact that the standard to defend yourself against the law is higher than being the law should stand out to a lot of people. Yeah. We all know, again, you can pawn it off on the older generation that things have changed, but they haven't. Yeah. The people that are cops are people who were picked on in high school and had nothing to live for. Yeah. And it sounds crass, but it's so true. They have a power struggle. And these are people with what is it? Not the Napoleon syndrome, but it's like that type of ego character flaw where these people already are craving it. That's what it takes for you to take on that job.
Now, I agree with you on that, but on the same side, I have friends and family who are also cops as well, and they are genuinely good people, and they uphold the law to the highest standards, and I know them. I knew them in grade school. I knew them in high school. Family is older than me, obviously, but I still know them as a person in a whole, and they would not do anything against the law that would jeopardize their job, their family, or their livelihood. And the fact that this guy did that to not just this one man, but to 3 other people should be a problem in itself.
Red flag.
And I agree with that. There are bad cops in the world, but you can't say that they're all bad.
Oh,
You can't.
not at all.
You cannot go up to their face and be completely rude to every single cop and just profile them based on one matter.
That's a strong point.
Granted, there's several of them, but again, there's still so many good cops out there.
So I agree with Nick. There are always, and here's the thing. We need the police to keep the peace. Like, it is a necessary element to society. However, one of the other things to keep in mind is how the system has failed us. So one of the problems I find in the legal field is how it should be, you're still a human, right?
Yep.
So you're in marketing, you're in the dollar bills, you are sports management, you are therapy, all of us in different fields, and yet in the court of law, we are still man versus man. Nick brought that up.
Yep.
Man versus man.
You're
My
right.
word versus your word. But the law looks at police officers as a god, as a omniscient being with no human flaws. That's the problem. To where they can use their human flaws against us, vindication, anger, whatever it may be. I may have a problem with you, like you slept with my ex-wife, whatever it might be. And what they have God power with human flaws. And so for me, I'm with Nick. The only problem we have is accountability. When it takes the police chief a week to fire the guys because the country's pressure of what the hell's going on.
Like, what are they thinking about?
What? There's nothing to wait on. But that's the thing is cops always have cops back. So I agree with Nick, but even some of the good ones for the fraternity defend the bad ones because they're a brotherhood. So I agree with Nick on the vast majority, but the police chief failed us, and now we can move on to the second part because I don't want to spend the whole night talking about this. It is a heartbreak, and we cannot forget it, and action must be taken. But I think the only other you shouldn't be attacking stores and homes and burning places down when the only person who has brought us as a country injustice is the prosecutor. I have told my friends forever, when I went to law school, I learned one thing. Prosecutors and judges have incredibly unchecked power. Their power is so strong, and yet it's all subjective. And what sucks is, I've told them before, if I were to become a prosecutor, I could know my sister killed someone and say, it's the prosecutorial discretion. I decided we're not going to press charges against my sister because I don't think I don't even need to even give you an answer. But I'll tell you it's because I don't think we have enough evidence or whatever the reason may be. But I have the power to make that decision. That's the problem. One man is failing us, and that's the problem. So when you're on your Instagram giving a whole list of rules for your white friends, I need you to remember that there's one person failing us. It's the person whose job it is to stand for their constituents and see when wrongdoing happens, not stand on the side of the brotherhood. Because I see it with prosecutors all the time. Cops are in their back pockets. They're best buddies. Their word is law. And as a result, we are left powerless. And yet, we're not. So moving on to the second subject, what do? Some people's reactions is to loot and riot. And before we get into that, Truckley, you had a quote from us from Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on this after I read it. And then I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice and humanity. Thoughts?
100%. Look at what I just went on a rant about our criminal justice system and how it balances with the executive branch of enforcing these laws. You have this backdoor deal of we're on the same team. They're the layman, we're the government, and they're always going to have that camaraderie. So what was the white society is more concerned about the tranquility and the status quo. It's working good. We got the power. It's unchecked. Every decision we make is law.
Right.
There's no reason to change it, and changing it would only jeopardize us losing our power. I think it speaks to exactly that situation. Nick, what are your opinions? And Kemp as well.
No, like I said, it's a very good quote because it basically explains that America's failed to hear. Obviously, all these things have just been building up, and it's just been such a factor in all these different. Like I said, there's just been a bunch of stories and a bunch of things, and finally, it's going to happen. Like it's just a bottle rocket ready to explode. So, I think it is agree. Whereas the tranquility and the status quo of also the like I said, we're ready. We're like I said, we're not looking. We don't as Alex says a lot. We're kind of looking in through just a one lens. Whereas we need to expand our vision and look at the whole picture rather than just kind of this doesn't bother me. This doesn't affect me. Where you got to look at the picture and go, this does affect me. This has a bigger effect on me than I should look into, and that's where you have to explore and look at things. Granted, I'm not the biggest activist and not a thing, but I take credit in the back of my mind and it affects me. But that's where I need to maybe do more action. And I need to take different steps, and you need to realize that some of these things have a bigger effect on you than you think initially it does.
Mm-hmm. Strong point, Nick. What do you think? I like that, Kemp.
Just because it's the status quo of society doesn't mean that you should be complacent with it. Just for the sake of everything being the same, most society being tranquil about it and everything else like that. But again, at the same time, the second of the quote, at the basis of, at the end every day, at base root, we are human beings. We should have a speck of humanity left in us to be good people. And that if this was a man shooting another man on the street, no matter what the race, no matter what the color, they do it in the street and the cops that come up to the scene, they're going to arrest the man. Yet in this instance, the cop did the killing, and nobody did anything about it for 1 week. That's 7 days.
That is wild.
I guess one last thing I want to say is, like I said, I've taken the one side. The only other thing is you have to look at the whole situation and go. You can't leave any stone unturned, as you said.
That's it.
You got to look at the whole picture, and you got to go. All right, what happened exactly from here to lead to B and then to C. Rather than you see the one shot in the one social media that just leads to all the outrage, and again, that's where the media comes in, and they want to control the story. But you got to do some your due diligence on your own and look at things. And where they like I said, they like a lot of people like covering up what did and didn't happen. So it's just you got to look at it from a whole picture.
That's what makes it an exercise, though, Kemp, is right. That it is weird. Information when our parents were growing up, and let's go back to Kemp and I, one of my favorite classes from college was this professor, super liberal, had to take upon a new approach to American history. And so we were learning about manifest destiny, and while it was a whole history class on how America sucks, but this is how we became America, one of the things they emphasized was how the newspaper was what brought this country to what it was. So the newspaper, the ability to go to bars and coffee shops, have true, solid information, and then have the ability to create discourse with the people around you. Just, here's a topic, now we discuss. That's what brought about one of the greatest, strongest countries this planet has ever seen. So, in light of that, building off of Kemp's point, what sucks is as the generations have built, and we've been exposed to even more and more information, the pool has only gotten muddier with disinformation. And it's become an exercise. You actually have to seek out information. If you're only listening to your echo chamber in CNN or MSNBC or on the flip side, Fox News, and you aren't balancing it with even the things that agitate you, you're part of the problem. You can only decipher the disinformation when you read all the information. So I just wanted to build off of Kemp's point, but Brian, what are your thoughts in this situation?
I guess to start off is I'm not saying looting is right. I'm not saying it's wrong, right? And the way I think about it is, not even the looting, but just the whole extrapolated response to the whole thing is, look, if that was my mom, my brothers, my dad, one of you guys, like one of my close friends, and I know that the person that did it is sitting in their home right there, nothing's been done, I guarantee you I would be sitting outside that person's yard.
But, what did you just say? I want to emphasize one strong point. I guarantee I'd be sitting outside his yard.
Yeah.
Not Target's yard, not Dollar General's yard.
Yep.
Go to the prosecutor's yard.
Exactly.
The one person who's failing us. So again, it isn't your white friends that sit in an educated academic environment with you and are trying to learn and grow with you, laying off your classmates' backs because they're trying just as hard as you, and you're so full of hate, I bet you they're trying harder than you. But I'm only saying that I think we're totally misdirecting our hatred. We need to recognize that we are all victims to an unchecked authority. We are on the same team. Brian, I had a situation when I was about to go to law school, when I had a run-in with the police, and you looked at me as soon as it was over and you said, wow, we'd be screwed if you were black. For real, and I still was screwed. So what does that say? That one, it's a problem that your white man didn't even see justice, but then the fact that we can have a discourse going, yeah, and if you were black, it would have been even worse. Guys, the French Revolution happened when two parties realized that, wow, we are fighting each other, but the person who's really oppressing us is the king. And the king has pinned us against each other. It is literally the same revolution. I look at these liberals, I think you're crazy. And of course you think I'm crazy. That's the beauty of free thought in a free country. But the also fact of the matter is, the same person who's fighting for the right to hold a gun because 300 men met 200 years ago and thought that that was rule number 2? Well, those same people who stand for that right are willing to use that gun to fight for you, no matter how crazy you are and how much they disagree with your opinion. They fight for the right to have a gun to fight for your defense. We're all on the same team. We are one tribe. I think the Democrats and kind of just the way the society has gone, we have lost our nationalism. Go to a country in Europe and find somebody that goes, I fucking hate it here. No, you don't. You are a German till the day you die. You are an Italian. You are a Greek, you are an English, but here we have lost our nationalisms to such a degree that we hate ourselves, we hate our country, we're a self-loathing nation, and we hate anybody that loves this nation. I'm sorry, man, the fact that we have people that leave our country to go be a part of the Israeli army is nuts, and Israel makes you, if you want to be a part of the Israeli state, got to spend some time in our army. I really think I cheated the system, and I feel in debt to people like my friends Adam. I hope Adam's watching this. Those that have sacrificed a huge chunk of their life and a huge opportunity of development and possibly other tracks on life for our freedom. And I didn't have to sacrifice anything. In fact, you get to put on your Instagram that all your friends suck and they hate all your brown friends. That is such a lie, and it's full of ignorance. So my opinion will always be emphasizing to anybody willing to listen that I love you until you steal the wallet out of my pocket or hurt my sister. I will love you. It is up to you and your character to disrupt that opinion. And at the end of the day, we're on the same team. I'm always going to emphasize we're on the same team.
Right.
Thoughts?
I agree. I wouldn't as far as go say I would love you, but I would say I will respect you.
Boom!
I will show no ill remorse or anything
dude, like
against
Jesus,
you
approach
until
it with
you
love.
show
I'm
it
not
towards
gonna...
me, right? And that's what it's very tempting to then go against him and do a malpractice against said individual. So obviously that's the human nature, and we're not perfect, and so that's where it is hard. Like I said, we're human beings, and you'd think it would be human knowledge or human sense to respect one another. And just granted, that's where obviously emotions and everything get in the way.
But that's where the wedges come in, right?
Yeah.
We're all on the same team, but for some reason,
we're all on the same team.
way back in the day, our tribes were divided by melatonin and not hair color.
Right.
We are all trying to be happy, and we're all trying to succeed, and we're all trying to find each other's it.
We're all trying to, 100%, we're trying to evade fear, we're trying to find security, and we're trying to supply and take care of our families. Brian, Nick, what do you guys got?
Man, I'm really focused on the whole reaction and the looting part is that, everyone's focusing on Target, right?
Yes.
Is okay, yeah, Target, and then they start and people roll it into this blame the corporations. I like it doesn't make any sense anymore. They just try to take it off the main topic. Is look, Target wasn't just burned down. There were family businesses that these families, their entire life, not just their life, but their parents' life, their grandparents' life, that had worked literally 20-hour days sometimes. You have a family business.
Yeah.
And it was just ruined like that. What did they do? They did nothing, but they were just there.
Exactly.
But that's the thing, like you talked about earlier, like before the show happened and everything, that people said that Target took milk off the shelves to fight against pepper spray and stuff like that. Okay, cool. If you riot and loot Target and burn it down, I'm indifferent about it then at that point because they kind of just said, sorry, you're on your own, have fun.
Yeah, and they sided with the oppressor. They took the milk out so you could suffer. That's different.
And again, that's fine if you singular go for Target. But I've seen videos of AutoZones, family businesses like Brian said, homes and stuff. Everything's being looted. Just because something happened to one man does not mean you take down your humanity. Your community. You're not taking down your sense of self. You're not taking down what you are as a whole. Your community makes you as a person at times, and you just tore down to its roots, and now you have to build from scratch.
No, I completely agree. And again, that's the misdirection of our attention. You burned down homes, businesses, and everything else except for one person's home, the prosecutors. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, and then you have just people that and it's pathetic. It's straight up pathetic. People take advantage of the opportunity. Right before I got up here, I saw a picture, or I guess a video, and a pause of the video. There was a man, not just a kid, but a man running outside of Target with 2 boxes of Legos under his arms.
Dude, I've seen people with TVs,
It's like, are you kidding me? What is this about?
Yeah. How does this break down society to that degree where no one cares about the rules or regulations we have in place anymore? It's like, just because something happened doesn't mean we become barbarians and we loot and we take what we want. Right. Yes, I would love to go to some stores and just loot the shit out of it. I would love it. Because guess what? I'm living like a king then. But here's the thing. I have the decency to not do it because there are still rules and things in place that make me check myself. Because if everybody did it, society as a whole would just crumble.
Nick, that's a really strong point. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you, not to get religious, but I think an analogy to that is what we're seeing with the Catholic and Christianity and the Catholic Church. What we have is priests raping kids, and that is against the rules, right? The Bible does not say rape little boys. No. The Bible says that's bad. So when all these people degrade Catholicism because priests rape little boys, it's like, no. Don't hate the old couple that goes to church every Sunday and believes in the Bible because a priest raped kids. The priest broke the rules. Right. So I'm with Nick. When I look at a cop, it's like, don't hate all the rule followers because someone broke the rules. Let's acknowledge he broke the rules. Right. Who's to blame? Police chiefs who try to hide the fact that they broke rules. Who's to blame? Prosecutors who don't enforce the rules. This is where we're at. The fact that we can go down a timeline and say, look, it started here. This was the first big instance of a black murder, straight up murder that was totally illegal. And here we're at today, and it still keeps going. We've had no progress. Well, one, you got to ask why. Why have we not seen any progress? And it's probably because our attention is totally misdirected. We are not addressing the real problem. You hate your white neighbor. Your white neighbor gets upset because you hate them. And they didn't do anything, when the real person to blame is, again, a police chief who hides the problem. It's a whole fraternity of cops. They do it. And then the prosecutor who doesn't step up and protect their constituents. One point I do want to get your guys' opinion on. Mm-hmm. I was in the car with my dad last night, and of course, my parents absolutely love that I'm home, but are totally annoyed to be confronted with my opinions because they're so aggressive.
Of course.
And we're driving home, and I'm thinking about I saw a picture of Martin Luther King with a whole crowd of people, white and black, standing hand in hand with a peaceful protest, and it was one of those. And of course, it was the manipulation and of the perspective on a conservative side of like, this is what protesting looks like. It shouldn't be rioting, and it was compared to. And then the next picture was all the burning and stuff. While that's all fine, what I was focused on was this beautiful picture of Martin Luther King making change. Nobody made more change in the human existence than he did, at least through America. The dude did it like Gandhi. He did it by taking the brunt, and use that as a tool to emphasize how the brutality was so overexerted. He would sit there and take it. Now, I just want to point out one thing. For a black man to get that stance, to get a voice that large in the 50s is so incredibly hard.
True.
So incredibly hard for a man to even get his feet up under him. And look at what he was able to do, the movement he was able to create, and the real change he brought. Now, think about someone like LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Jay-Z, all of these black men, Kevin Hart, who today have a louder voice than Martin Luther King could have ever have dreamed of. And the only thing LeBron James can do is post a meme of how this is why we support Colin Kaepernick, or post a picture of him when he was 20 wearing I Can't Breathe t-shirt. It's like, yeah, bro, you did more to the movement when you were 20 than you are right now. That's why you're posting a picture of you when you were a little baby. So I'm only bringing all of this up because their voice is louder than it could have ever been. They have a platform stronger than any human in human existence has ever had. And LeBron could freaking go, everybody, meet me in the LA park. We're doing a protest. It's going to be peaceful. No guns. We're going to do this right. I'm going to do it but he doesn't. Because he's an ass clown. They're all clowns. And this only makes me so passionate because it's so aggravating how much of a strong platform they have, and they get to play the victim card in their $1 billion house and pretend like they're doing anything from anybody but driving the wedge against each other. It's only dividing us more. They've done nothing good. Change my mind.
I agree. I think it's cowardice.
It is cowardice. A picture of Colin Kaepernick.
People, they're just... I think they're scared about what people will think of them. And that is flat out all they think about is what are people going to think of me.
That's why they don't stand for anything. That's why they're stoves.
Exactly. Instead of thinking what is actually important here.
Boom. Exactly. You have the strongest voice a human has ever had on this floating rock in space. Right. And you use it to try to trademark Taco Tuesday. Yeah, you're a clown.
I think it's obviously it's the social media that is just such a big thinking that will make my case and that will take my thing. But in the end, it's not until you actually create and do as much as it is like you gotta be active and you have to go out and show and aside from all the social media, like I know there's so many other celebrities and shit that do stuff that doesn't go documented, and like I said, and then maybe there's stuff but at that point, why don't you document that shit? Like document stuff that really means one another and stuff that really is.
But writing a check to something isn't enough. Yeah. You can't just write off, I'm a billionaire, here's $100,000. Right. It's a drop in the dude, you are a billionaire. Yeah, that's great. Do you know what $1 billion gets you? And being LeBron James, the loudest voice in America, and you use it to complain about not giving China enough money. You're a clown. Yeah. You've spent more of your voice being an activist for China than you have for the black people you say you stand for.
Right.
I can't tell you how many tweets I saw just last night, and from celebrities, and they were all, hey, my celebrity followers or friends, I'm donating $1,000 to this Minneapolis relief fund. Join me. Okay, great, you donated money to people that need help, but what does that have to do in addressing the original issue?
Exactly, man. Exactly. So here's the dilemma we got here. I agree with Brian. If it's my friend, if it's my brother, if it's a family member, I would go to the streets. My uncle said it himself. He's like, I would go burn this place down. Like it would be chaos. I get it. Mm-hmm. But you're also using that chaos to selfishly
exploit.
Exactly. Exploit it to be selfishly more. Let's grab those two cops and see if they're willing to do a podcast. Where are they going? The cigar shop next door.
Oh boy.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I'd like to hear you guys' final thoughts on this. But for me, wrapping up this topic, it's look at the clowns who are wasting their opportunities and their strong voices. And then also stop. If you truly think I'm not on your side because of a lack of a thing in my skin, melatonin, if you think that makes us against each other and you feel the need to profess that on your Instagram or your Twitter to educate myself, you're wasting your efforts. Tweet at the prosecutor, tweet at the police, do something for real change because you're only forcing that wedge deeper. Your guys' final thoughts.
I honestly think the quickest way I could wrap up everything is don't be scared to say something. Don't be scared to take action because that's the only way something is going to get accomplished. You sitting there and tweeting or just like, donating to a fund that really has nothing to do with the notion everybody has is this right or wrong? It's clearly wrong what happened. But how is this going to change moving forward? Don't be scared to act. Don't be scared to say something and stand up for what you know is right.
Stand for something. Kemp.
Well, I don't know what to follow up with other than, like I said, I think it's such a topic that it's finally getting people starting to talk about it, and it's starting to be a real issue, obviously, about this injustice. And so it's a real topic, and I think we need to doing actions rather than just posting on your Snapchat. And I will just, like I said, in certain things, like I said, that you gotta find. I guess I'm quoting Ron Swanson as don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. Find something to, like I said, get in there and then don't half-ass it. Like, fucking do it all the way through, and I know it will turn out to be a better and solution to the whole problem.
Strong point. I completely agree. Nick?
Honestly, people think that racism is a huge, huge thing. It's becoming more and more of a problem. It's not more and more of a problem. The only thing that's changed is, like everyone said, there's a huge platform and there's technology that can support everybody's claim now. It's just being documented more. So honestly, to wrap everything up in one whole verse is just be good people. At the end of the day, just can you look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? You did everything in your power to be a good person today. I'm proud of you. If you can't look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, yeah, you were a good person, did you really try your hardest? Did you really do everything you possibly could to really make a difference?
I think those are all great points. And I think bringing them all in to one conclusion, there's a theme that all of us bring up. And it's, one, the action needs to be real, but also do something that makes you passionate. And again, just tweeting something out isn't enough. You're not doing anything. Stop wasting efforts and making only matters worse. Recognize who our real aggressors are and who's on your side. On that note, again, I think we all should truly, truly hope that this is the last one, right? We've had too many of them. I don't know if it will be, but I will say, I've been saying for years when I have all these conversations, the theme that Kemp brought up that overlaps with Brian and Nick is that what we really need to be able to have is a discourse, right? Don't hate somebody because they're white and you just think they're the problem, and they're not going to hate you back. The whole point is to provoke uncomfortable conversations like this and have them because it's the only way something gets done. So be able to jump in the swamp and get a little dirty because it's the only way just responses occur. My mouth feels disgusting. I smell disgusting. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed that. That's what it was for your enjoyment. Did you have fun? Mm-hmm. Share it with your friends. I apologize that somewhere along the line we lost some of the film or all of the beginning. Nonetheless, you see us now. You got to enjoy this back half. And I hope to see you guys next time. We're in a new studio. I know I said this last time.
An awesome studio.
Amen. Amen. A legitimate space, not my bedroom. And now we have great guests coming your way, real guests. And until then, we're going to have our boys sitting here eating anchovies. So we're going to catch you next time. Kemp, thank you. You're the man.
Thank you. Oh, God.
Bless you.
I got friggin' anchovies stuck in the back.
Anchovy sneeze.
I could feel it. Brian, thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Foster. Until next time. I switched. Till next time, guys, remember, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And again, we just ate a bunch of nasty stuff. The least you can... Brian's the real champion. You have no idea how miserable it is.
Dude, my nose is running like a
And on that note, we're going to let Brian spit it out and wrap this thing up. So, if you enjoyed it, please share this video, and we're going to catch you next time. Peace.
Thanks, man. That was awesome.
Dude.
That was fun.